Hey guys, it's Nick, and in this video I want to talk about the news from the White House that supports waiving IP protections for COVID vaccines, and it hit a lot of the biotech stocks that are involved in this. Whether you own these stocks or not, you can learn some lessons in investing and trading from what happened today in these stocks, as well as I'm going to look at some other stocks that have come out with earnings recently that didn't live up to their expectations. Even though their earnings were great, their stocks are down, and what that tells you about a stock. So here is the news. White House supports waiving IP protections for COVID vaccines. And so Moderna, BioNTech, Johnson & Johnson, Novavax, and Pfizer all fell when this news came out. Just to let you know, this is nothing new. There's been cases before of countries saying that we don't want to abide by the patents for certain drugs because we need them really badly in our country and they're too expensive, or the drug companies are charging too much. This happened back in 2007 when Brazil bypassed the patent on the Merck AIDS drug. And what's funny is Merck offered to cut its $1.59 per pill price by 30%. And Brazil wanted to pay what Merck charges Thailand, or 65 cents a pill. So you see, these drug companies charge different prices in different countries based on what they think people can afford. But anyway, let's look at the price of the stocks when this news came out. And this is Pfizer, this is Moderna, and this is BioNTech. And I just happened to own Pfizer today. And Pfizer reported earnings yesterday, and I was thinking of selling it depending on how it acted after the earnings. And today it was up to like above $41, and really great news coming out saying that Canada is approving the Pfizer vaccine for 2 to 11-year-olds. I don't know if that's good news if you're a 11-year-old in Canada, but for the stock, it should have been very good news, and it started off that way. And so I was planning on holding it maybe until $43 or something like that if it got there. Later in the afternoon, I look and the market is up, and all of a sudden Pfizer is down and falling, and the other pharma stocks like Merck, Amgen, Bristol Myers and stuff are not falling. Only Pfizer is. Now, I don't watch Moderna or BioNTech, so I didn't see them also falling, but I saw what was going on with Pfizer, and I tried to find news when I saw this falling, and there was none at the time. And so this is the first lesson. When your stock is doing good or just drifting or whatever, and all of a sudden, like a light switch, something changes and it starts dropping like a rock, you may not see the news, but there is some kind of rumor or some kind of news out there that you don't know yet. And so a lot of times it's better to, shoot first and ask questions later until you find out what's going on. And so I sold my stock, I don't know, somewhere around $39.80 or something like that, just because there was no reason for it to drop. It had good news yesterday. It was up today. And it was the only one I saw dropping, and the other pharma stocks were not. So I was hoping to get 43 out of it, but I'd rather sell it now when I still have a profit and find out later what's going on. I can always get in. And so same thing happened with Moderna and BioNTech. They dropped much bigger percentages, however. So that's the first lesson, is when a stock doesn't act the way you think it should act, or it's acting strange when all the other similar stocks are not acting strange, there's something up with it. You just don't have that information yet. And so that goes to rule number 2, is don't bet the farm on anything. Because imagine if you were in Pfizer or Moderna or BioNTech or whatever, and you had 50, 70% of your portfolio in these things, and you saw them dropping for no reason, and you didn't see the news yet. What are you going to do? A lot of times you'll just panic and dump it at the bottom. But if you only had 2, 3, 5% of your portfolio in these, maybe you would, take a step back, wait for the news to come out, see what it means, see what people are thinking about it, and what the likelihood is that these things are going to happen, that they're going to have to give up their IP protection on these drugs. Maybe it's likely to happen, maybe it's not, but the knee-jerk reaction is always down when bad news comes out about something like this. And you saw this knee-jerk reaction on April 22nd when Biden came out and said that they were going to raise the capital gains rate to almost 44%. The market was trending up nicely that day, and on that news, it just, completely sold off. However, after cooler heads prevailed and realized that, he's not going to be able to do that high, maybe he's going to get to 28% or 30% or something like that. A couple investment banks like Goldman Sachs came out and said he's not going to be able to do that much. The market then came back pretty much quickly. However, it's been basically treading water since then. So another lesson to learn, whether you're investing or just trading for short term, is not so much what the news is, but how the market reacts to the news. And so I don't know if you know this lately, but a lot of companies have been coming out with good earnings and their stocks have been selling off. And so I was a little weary that Pfizer was going to do the same, and they reported on Tuesday morning and their Q1 earnings beat. And the stock didn't do too much, but it didn't go down. And so I held it for another day. And today was going to be the day that if it didn't go up a little or at least stay flat, I would probably dump it. And I was surprised that, it was up a good amount. And like I said, a lot of good news about Canada going to approve the Pfizer vaccine for 2 to 11-year-olds, all kinds of good news for the Pfizer stock, let's say. So Pfizer acted good after the earnings before this bad news came out about, Biden and the IP thing. But Amazon, on the other hand, if you've been following this, had great earnings. Okay, here's an article, 5 reasons Amazon's earnings gave investors a buy signal. Great earnings, buy signal. Amazon just posted record profit margins. 3 reasons it will get even better. This is May 2nd. So by all measures, Amazon came out with great earnings, right? But look at the stock of Amazon. This is the day it came out of the earnings after hours, and it jumped to 36.67, something like that in the after hours. And since then, it's done nothing but go down. Now it's like 32.56 or something like that. So basically, it's lost 400 points since those great earnings that it came out with. And that's, on a $3,000 stock, that's 12, 13%, something like that, down. And so the point I'm trying to make is earnings, news, don't usually matter. What matters is how the price reacts to that news, how the market reacts to that news. So if you were a buyer of Amazon here and you saw those great earnings and you're like, that's awesome. But then the next day, there was no big follow through. It kind of just treaded water and trended down. And by the end of the day, it was basically where it started before the earnings came out. You have a decision to make. Is all the good news priced in, or is this just a temporary blip and it's going to go back up? Who knows? But in this case, it's continuing to trend down. So here's an article on Zero Hedge talking exactly about this, that this is the strongest earnings seasons on record, and the market is hammering both companies that beat earnings and companies that miss earnings. And so you see this a lot of times at turns in the market. When the market is doing really bad and is going down all the time and earnings are bad, at the turn is when you see a really bad earnings come out and stocks don't go down, or they start to go up a little. That's usually a turn. And conversely, in the top of a market, you see really good earnings and the stocks not only don't go up, but they actually go down on good earnings. And so is this a top of the market, or is it just that? So is this the sign of the top of the market, or is it just that this quarter is already fully priced in and expected to be spectacular, and actual earnings may only disappoint from here? Or is this really the sign of, we're building a top in the market here? And this is a real interesting chart here. This is how much on average the companies who beat earnings expectations rise after their earnings, and how much the companies who miss earnings expectations fall after they miss their earnings. So you see, going back from 2016, they would rise a certain amount, 1.4, 0.8, 1.1% on beating earnings, and they would fall somewhere around 1.6, 1.8, 2% or so on missing earnings. So the misses hasn't changed, but the beats has changed. So for the last 3 quarters, companies who beat expectations either didn't go up or actually went down. This is for the last basically 3-4 quarters now. So that's a look at this Biden news and what it means for these stocks, and how to tell by looking not only at your stocks, but other stocks and the market in general, how it's reacting to news that's supposed to be good or bad. Does it go up on good news? Does it go down on bad news, or the opposite? Those kinds of things can tell you a lot about the stock market in general and your stock in particular. So I hope you liked this video, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.